everyone! I'm sorry that I missed posting the video last week. I started off the week with migraines and headaches and moved into a head cold that left me sniffling every few minutes. Fortunately, I'm feeling much better now. And since I missed saying it last week, Gonghe for Troy! Woo! I probably pronounced that horribly, and if I did, please forgive me. That said, yes, last Tuesday was the Lunar New Year celebration! This is a water tiger year, which in general means that prosperity and luck will come to those who earn them. At its most basic meaning, of course. I am a goat, or a sheep. You'll see it put as either. I've seen arguments for both. But what it means generally is actually that I'm, perhaps unsurprisingly, excessively creative. And this year is supposed to be really, really prosperous for me, so long as I'm willing to work for it. And since I really, really wanted to celebrate, I made this outfit. I hope you all like it. Let me just move myself back here so you can see the whole thing. Isn't it nice? Isn't it nice? Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. There are a lot of little details that I ended up loving. But yeah, it turned out really well. Everything from the crane on the front to the little shake of the dress. And when we get in close again, let me come forward and close to the screen again. You can see I actually have a little tiger on the top of the dress and a little tiger tattoo on the other side. It just seemed like a very, very fun way to celebrate the new year. A very fun way to celebrate the new year. I hope you guys like it too, though. I hope you guys love this dress too. I will probably be wearing it until the end of the spring festival, so next couple of weeks. But let me know in the comments, all right? Let me know if you like the dress too. Oh, and let me know what you are in the Asian astrology ones. I love finding out from people. Now, on the last chapter that we read, Richard and Kazunaha had found the ship's contraband, fireworks apparently, badly damaged, and had decided to take the box out with them to see if they could be salvaged. Now, on with the show. Perfect. Okay, now let me just pull up our book here, find our place. Perfect. And let's get started. Ship supplies in this one too, mostly rotted. Did you find anything in yours, Kazunaha? Putting her back into it, she pushed down on the crowbar. Her hands hurt, even through the soft gloves that Richard had given her to wear. It's all well and good to think about finding treasure in a warm tavern with some mulled wine, and another entirely to be without the wine and actually have a crowbar in my hands, she growled. They were in the second room and had been for nearly an hour. They'd found nothing of value but old ship supplies. Somehow she didn't think 8 hammers and a crate of nails, rusted or not, was the treasure that Richard had been hoping to find. Kazunaha? He asked. She heard a satisfying creak as the nails squeaked out of the crate. Ooh, good job. All the nails are still good in that one, too. We might be able to pry them loose and mix them in with the crate. That should cut us a few more coppers. She looked at Richard to see if he was laughing at her or not. He didn't seem to be, so she let it go, in favor of seeing what was in the box. Looks like metal hooks. No, wait, rigging? She picked one up. It was heavy and solid. She rubbed a finger on it. The rust crumbled at her touch, marking her hand with red-brown dust. She set it back in the box. Richard knocked on one with a tiny hammer, and then rubbed at it with a cloth. Shackles, he corrected her. We might be able to get something for them. They were quality at one point. Heavy, though. We'll put them on the maybe list. We could try selling the location to Jack. If we could knock out that mud crab front, we might be able to get one of his ships in and get everything out. Richard grunted as if he didn't like her solution. Do we want to try the next room? He nodded and leaned in to kiss her again. All of the men she'd had since Deckard had treated her lips as if they were nothing but a gateway to getting the rest of her clothes off. Richard liked seeing her without them too, but he always took the time to make her breathless first. We could bring a horse and cart up here when we come back, he suggested as he let her go. The next door was the same as the rest, though on closer inspection it didn't seem to have warped as badly. The air that rushed out when Richard pushed it open was dusty and thick. She coughed. The air tasted stale. Kazunaha pulled out the cloth fan they'd made and waved it around, holding her breath against the tickle in her throat. Richard's eyes watered as he yanked out his water bottle. Holy hells, that air is dry! He splashed some water on his face before handing it to Kazunaha. She drank until the tickle subsided. They looked in the room, holding the lantern high. Unlike the other three, this one had taken no water damage. There was a single bed with a dead body on it, a chest, and tucked into the furthest corner from the door, a chair, and a broken portable desk. There was also a small oil lamp hanging from the ceiling. Richard removed the old lamp and hung his instead. Kazunaha smiled at him and went, as she always did, to the bodies first. In her mind, she repeated her family's prayer for the dead, as she had over every other body that they'd found today. A man that was not honored when he died returned to stalk the living. She would have said it out loud, but Richard would have laughed at her. The man's clothes were like her own, a Ciancu men's design, a black-blue robe over pleated black pants. The clothes were bug-eaten and worn, but the man's bones didn't seem to have any tooth or claw marks on them that she could see. Richard had gone to the chest at the end of the bed. He looked at it like it was a particularly interesting puzzle. He crooned softly to it while he rubbed at the greasy dust on top. Kazunaha kept herself from snorting amusement. I wonder who he was, she mused, touching the man's sleeve as gingerly as she could. A patch of sleeve, the size of her outstretched palm, puffed to dust at the touch. The skeleton's hand showed no rings or jewelry. She was about to turn away when she noticed something hidden beneath his fingers. A slim blade, wrapped in the Ciancu style. The sword was heavy, and was wrapped in black and red cloth that flaked away where she touched it. She could tell by its size that it was a short sword, most likely a wakizashi. They were carried by a noble's most trusted retainers. Tied to the hilt's wrappings was a signet ring, covered with a blue-black patina. She tugged at the reddish string, expecting it to puff to dust like the sleeve had, but it held fast. The symbol on it looked like a knot of some sort, but she'd have to clean it to be sure. She quelled an almost insurmountable urge to unsheath it. Richard would want to see it as well, and the material was already falling to shambles. She bit her lip. Praying over the bodies just made good sense. She wanted to take the sword, though, and this felt more like theft than anything else here had. She let out a breath and straightened her back. Then she clapped her hands together and bowed over the body, reciting the goddess Almateri's words in Ciangu. It wouldn't have felt right to take it without asking first. By the death above, as all below, all will return to the path, following her golden coils. They will search unending until she takes them in her claws to be judged, following the precepts set down by the Book of Just Sight. Those worthy will serve, in death as they did in life. Those who did not will suffer her disappointment and return to the well of all. She touched the dead man's head and whispered to him, I know you are serving her now. If you wish me to leave the blade, send a sign. But with your permission, I would see it brought to beauty again. If the man's soul disapproved, she saw no sign. Tentatively, she picked up the blade, surprised by how light it felt in her hands. Richard coughed quietly. If you're done, do you mind checking to see if he has a key on him? That chest is beautiful, and I can break into it, but I may have to destroy the lock. I'd rather not if I don't have to. She nodded and lifted the dead man's other sleeve. Sifting through the cloth dust, she found a tiny key ring with a few old blackened keys on it. She handed them to Richard. He took them and gestured at the sword. Nice find. Is the ring silver? I think so, she said, touching it gently. The ring swung around, catching the light in the room. The knot is still rather tight, and hasn't fallen apart yet. When he gestured for her to unsheathe the blade, she held her breath and did so. It felt right in her hands, a beautiful weight, as if it had been meant for someone her size. Nice. That will get us a good price. It's held up extremely well. He glanced at the swinging object. A signet. Have you ever seen the symbol before? She shook her head. It looks like a knot, but I can't tell more than that. We'll have to clean it. I should be able to check my family's library at home when we return to it as well. If her sister let her. She felt the pain as a physical thing in her chest. Himiko would understand, and if she couldn't, well then, Kazunoha could figure out what she could do then. Wonderful. Would you carry it for now? She smiled, holding it as if she were going to use it as a weapon. Richard laughed and she flushed, sheathing and tucking the blade into her belt. More of the cloth flaked off, but the hilt itself held. It must have been made of good leather underneath the cloth. It wasn't that funny. I'm sorry, it's just, you were holding it like you would a dagger. It's closer to a short sword's length. He turned the key in the lock. The chest was beautiful, dark lacquered wood, and matching metals under the smeared dust. The large key fit and clicked satisfyingly open, with a bit of pressure. Kazunoha saw books, papers, inks, quills. Richard took the top book out and opened it. The paper was fragile, but it had held up better than the man's clothes had. He gestured her closer. I don't recognize the language. Do you? The script was in a messy hand and the ink was faded in places, but she did. It's Xianggu, though an old version of it. Koin hasn't meant illustrious in ages. Oh, what does it mean now? Richard said, while he pulled out the rest of the books and items. She paused, trying to translate it. Normally she would have said pretentious, but with that specific character it also could have meant leader of the way, which changed slightly as well depending on the context. She shook her head. Simple was better. Something closer to pretentious. What are you looking for? Richard had put the book down and was tapping the bottom of the chest. There's over an inch missing here. I think there's a false bottom. She closed the book and set it down on top of the others. Richard made a pleased sound and lifted out a thin wooden slat in a black lacquered box. There was no dust on it, and carved dragons coiled on the lid. She blinked. Those looked familiar. She ran her fingers over the design in the ring. Perhaps they were the same? Richard flipped through the key ring again. He settled on a tiny scratched key and put it into the lock. It turned, but not all the way. He frowned and chose a slightly larger one. This one clicked through. The lamplight flickered off 4 thin ropes, strung with gleaming coins. Richard pulled one of the strings out. Nearly half a foot long, there were dozens of coins strung on it. The coins had a hole through the center and had been strung on a red cord, with huge knots at either end to keep the coins tied on. Richard held it as if worried that the thick cord wouldn't hold the weight. He put the bottom down and tugged at it. As the knot became unbound, he pulled off a coin and handed it to her. Can you read this as well? His tone was hard, but she couldn't begrudge him the reaction. These were Cian Compa, Cian-Ku's most valuable coin. She hadn't been keeping up with their worth since her father had died, but they had been worth a pretty penny. Lower than the gold Sempa coins, but not by much, and a gold-copper mix that made them difficult to counterfeit. It was also one of the reasons that they were valued lower than the bright garish gold color that they preferred here. For Kazunoha, their gorgeous shade had made them her favorite type of coin to handle. They're the most valuable coins of the Cian-Ku Empire. Compass. These symbols around the innermost circle, she pointed them out, are connected to the 4 celestial animals that guard the Cian people. On the other side are the 4 names of heaven. This symbol around the edge is always the current ruler's name, with this symbol being the predecessor's name, and the left side their ruling grandparents. The bottom name is always the same, Amateri, the goddess that first ordained the emperor's family with the right to rule. You know a lot about them, Richard said, taking the coin back from her. She sat up straighter. One thing my father made sure I could do was recognize all the common and some uncommon currencies. How else would I be able to tell their value? That's useful. What about general appraisal? He asked, putting the coin back onto the cord and retying it. The knot he used was different, but would suffice, though tighter than she would have made it. Cloth, mostly. Some glass, but it's too valuable to be judged in the same way. You could tell what type of glass was used to make a window, but not how much a statuette would be worth, he clarified. She nodded. Good to know. So how much are these worth? Strings usually had 100 coins each on them, and they were worth about 3/4 of a gold cent each? She worked it out. I don't know the exact rates, but they should be worth 600 to 700 gold centene. He blinked, and she got the feeling he was glad he was sitting down. She wished she was too. Gold? Most people lived their day-to-day lives in coppers, and even she tended to live her life only in silver. Gold was something that the royals lived on. It hit her that with her percentage, at least one of those strings would be hers. She suddenly wished that she was sitting beside him. Her hand closed on the hilt at her waist. She could claim it. The money left over from her share would pay for her to live quite well, and away from her family's household. Long enough to have a home built? Richard closed the money chest, patted the case, and arranged the books and papers on top again. She was surprised to see that his hand was shaking as he closed the lid again. Let's take this up and see what else we can find. Sounds good. She took a calming breath. How long until sundown? He touched her jaw suggestively, and his eyes had a wild lust to them. Another few hours, but we can always stay the night if we need to. Her breath caught, and she followed him upstairs. A good chapter! A good chapter! Okay, let me just come back out to the other room. Perfect. And I'll take the book down and mark its place for next week. Perfect. There's just something about Lunar New Year that I just love. It's so unique and festive. I really missed going down to our local Asian cultural center to see the dragon dances. It's probably better that I didn't go, though, considering I wasn't feeling well, and I'm also penniless. They usually have a huge bazaar set up as well. I would have loved to go and do some shopping. So, how do you celebrate Lunar New Year? And let me know what you are in the comments. Like I said, I'm a goat, so... Oh, and let me know if you're interested in finding out more. I ended up talking about it a little bit on Twitch. I'll see if I can edit it, into something that you can understand here, and, load it when I get the chance. But I think that's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button, and if you want to make my day, share the video. If you want more content from me, of course, you can follow me on here, or Twitch for the live streams, and, of course, on Twitter, TikTok now, and Instagram. I have a Facebook account as well, just in case that's where you are, but not many people use it. Not many people use it. I do make certain I go there, but it's a little bit quieter than everywhere else. At any rate, that's going to be it for me today. Have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye!